Hi, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. Today, I want to speak about something that is often misunderstood, sometimes avoided, and yet deeply central to the history of the art itself, the subject of the nude in art. This is not about shock, it is not about controversy, it is not about sex, it is about form, humanity, vulnerability, and truth. When I chose to work with the subject of nude study in my art practice and exhibitions, it was not a sudden decision. It was a slow realization that if art is truly about understanding life, then we cannot avoid the human body because it is where all the life begins and exists. So, today, I want to share my perspective on why I chose this subject, what it means in art history, and what I hope viewers take away from it. So, first and foremost, let's start with the history of the nude in the art. If we look back through the art history, we see that the human body has always been central. In classical antiquity, Greek sculptors studied the body not as something private, but as something ideal, a balance of proportion, symmetry, and harmony. Works like the sculptures of athletes and gods were not meant to be provocative. They were meant to represent perfection and physical intelligence. Later, during the Renaissance, the artists like David transformed the nude into something deeply spiritual and human at the same time. Michelangelo did not just curve the muscle and bone, he curved thought, tension, and emotion. In academic art, the tradition across Europe, live drawing from the nude figure became the foundation of artistic training. Artists learn how light falls on the skin, how weight shifts, how emotion is carried in posture. Even artists like Olympia challenge society by presenting the human body in a direct, unidealized way, forcing the viewers to confront reality rather than the fantasy. So, when we talk about nude art, we are not talking about something modern or controversial. We are talking about the oldest language of visual art, the study of human being. Secondly, um, the most common question that I faced during my exhibition, that is, why I chose this subject. My personal reason for choosing the nude as a subject is simple, but also very deep. I wanted to understand the human being without distraction. When we look at a person, we often see their clothes, their status, their identity, and their culture. But when those external layers are removed in artistic study, what remains? What remains? That is the form, structure, gesture, emotion. So the nude work figure becomes a universal language. It does not matter who the person is, where they come from, or what the role they play in society. The body speaks in shape, in curve, in tension, in stillness. For me, this subject became a way to study honesty because the human body does not lie. It reveals weight, balance, fatigue, strength, and vulnerability in ways words cannot. In my own art practice, I realized something important. I was not just drawing or painting a body, I was studying presence. Every line becomes a decision, every shadow becomes a feeling, every posture becomes a story. And in that process, I began to understand that nude art is not about exposure, it is about observation. Thirdly, I would like to discuss about the art, respect, and the human form. There's often a misunderstanding about nude art, especially in modern discussions. But in serious artistic practice, the nude is never about objectifications. It is about respect of forms and structure. When artists sit in a live drawing session, there is silence, focus, and professionalism. The model is not an object. The model is the subject of study, collaboration, and trust. The goal is not to judge the body, but to understand it. How does weight shift from one foot to another? How does emotion affect the posture? How does light define volume? These are scientific questions as much as artistic ones. Even in modern anatomy studies, artists and medical illustrators rely on the same principles. The nude figure becomes a bridge between art and science. And this is why I believe it deserves to be shown in art exhibitions, not hidden away, but presented in a thoughtful, educational, and respectful context. Finally, I would like to discuss about what I want the audience to feel. I mean, what I expect the audience to feel. That's a much better words, I guess. When people come to my art show, I do not want them to feel discomfort or confusion. I want them to slow down. I want them to observe how fragile and strong the human body is at the same time. I want them to see that every curve and lines which carries meaning, not in a symbolic way only, but in a real physical way. A seated figure is not just a pose, it is rest. A stretched arm is not just anatomy, it is intention. A curved back is not just structure, it is emotion. If viewers leave the exhibition with one feeling, I hope it is that this. The human body is not something to be judged quickly, it is something to be understood slowly. And in that understanding, there is respect. So, slow down. My final thoughts. So, why did I choose the subject of nude in art? Because it is honest, it is timeless, because it connects us to what we all share, human as a human. And in a world full of distractions, filters, and surface images, returning to the raw study of the human from and in a world full of distractions, filters, and surface images, returning to the raw study of the human form feels not only relevant but necessary. Thank you for listening. See you in the next podcast. Thank you.